Hello everybody, welcome into the latest live stream. Let me step over here where you can see me. Hi. All right, so I had some thoughts about this the other day. First, let me make sure everybody can see and hear me okay. Everything good? Too many mice and keyboards around these parts. Okay, very good. Thank you for the feedback. Okay, now, I decided I'm going to go ahead and show you guys some testing that I do on the system before I ship it to the customer. The testing that I do isn't about getting the highest benchmark numbers. What it is, it's about torturing the machine by pushing it as hard as I can push it to make sure the temperatures don't exceed a certain threshold, so that it, no matter what the customer throws at it, I'm confident the system's going to survive okay. That's my MO in doing this. Modus operandi, what do they call it? I don't know. I'm not a lawyer. So what I'm going to do is start off by firing the machine up again. Again, your monitor is going to be my monitor, so I've run the HDMI cable right out into the capture card so I can use your monitors at home, so I can see what this thing is doing. So let's get that fired up first. Let me grab the right mouse, and let's move over to input number 4. Well, actually, let me reduce myself. Let me put myself here in the corner, and then let's get rid of this and this, and then let's add input number 4. All right, so that's input number 4. It says no signal. That's what it's supposed to say. And let's fire this bad boy up. And I'm going to show you what I'm going to do to torture test it here. Now, there was a new BIOS update already, so I put that on. And when I did it, it erased all the BIOS settings, so I had to go back and make sure XMP was enabled, turned fast boot on. All of that, as it turns out, was actually off yesterday, so the boot time should be better. I should be seeing something on the, oh, there it is. Okay, a little bit of an initialization there. So it should boot faster than it did yesterday. Let's see what it does. As long as your CPU is not hitting 99 degrees, you're fine, but over an extended period of time, anything over 80 degrees Celsius can damage this. Not damage it, it could lower the life of the CPU if you run it constantly at that speed. It's normal for a CPU to sort of peak and come back down. You don't want it sustaining that for day after day, week after week, month after month of 80 plus degrees Celsius, or you will. It's just like this message that comes up in the bottom right corner, the cam notification is just basically repeating what I've just said. I don't have this thing plugged into the internet, so TeamViewer can't connect. So I gotta use the other mouse for that though, don't I? There we go. Okay. Now the problem is I can't see because I'm in the way, so I'm just gonna turn myself off of here for a minute so you guys can see what I can see. And we're gonna run Prime 95. I'm gonna bring this up. This is a free download. We're just gonna hit OK right here on all the defaults, and it's running all the cores right now. Pedal to the metal, 100% all the way down. This is as hard as you can push a CPU. You cannot push a CPU any harder than that. Then to monitor our temps, we can use the NZXT software, but just for consistency, I'm gonna use HW Monitor. It's another freeware application, currently version 1.35, and we're gonna use that to monitor our temps. Okay, so let's just move that over here. And what we're interested in, we have our current temperatures of each core, and then we have the minimum temperatures of each core and the maximum temperature of each core. So your maximum should be where it's peaking. When I push the system hard, it will peak at about 81, 82, but it's only there briefly. It does bother me a little bit, but I've verified, I've even reset the heatsink, and it's good, it's flush, everything's good. It's just how hot that 8700K can get with the X52 cooler. It would certainly benefit from the X62 being a larger radiator, but be that as it may, I have to say, this is one of the quietest, if not the quietest computer I have ever built. I can't even tell it's on, other than the blue lights. It's crazy. Now, when we push the video card really hard, then we're going to hear the fans on the video card ramp up. Not much I can do about that. So here's the thing, here's what I want you to think about. You've seen me run the Heaven benchmark, right? That's where I do the graphics test. But will this machine run Prime 95 and the Heaven benchmark at the exact same time? And if it does, what do you think it'll do? Do you think it'll be jerky, or do you think it'll play smooth? Place your bets. We're going to start it and find out. So here's the Heaven benchmark. We're at 100% on all the cores. These cores cannot work any harder. And now we're going to start the Heaven benchmark. Oh yeah, I'm crazy like that. I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it. There we go. 100% on all the cores, and while it's doing that, I'm going to ask it to do something else that's going to push the video card to its limit at the same time. You try this on your system. Here we go, running the benchmark right now. Looks pretty smooth to me. Remember, we're running Prime 95 on all the cores of the CPU at 100% nonstop. Most computer users will never push the CPU this hard for this length of time. Most usage will peak the CPU temporarily for a moment or two, and then it'll bring it back down just as long as it needs to complete whatever the task is. Something really, really CPU intensive, some video editing software, maybe a game here or there, can still push the CPU pretty hard more regularly, but still not at 100% solid for this length of time. It'll still have points of the render or points of the software that you're running that the CPU will ramp back down again until it gets pushed hard again, and that's what it does. It speeds up, it slows down just through normal usage. It will very rarely ever be asked, if I haven't made that clear yet, to run all cores at 100% for this length of time. That would be very, very unusual. So if it can do this without overheating, then the customer should have no problem whatsoever. Now, I would expect our benchmark scores at the end of this to be about half of what they would be without Prime 95 running. And we can run it again just to compare it, just so you can see the difference. But I would certainly challenge anybody watching this video to try and emulate what I'm doing here now on your machine at home and tell me how your machine did. In most cases, this isn't going to do very well with Prime 95 running. So when somebody says, can I play a game in high resolution and stream it to Twitch at the same time with this setup? Easily. If I can run Prime 95 at 100% on all cores and run this benchmark and it runs that smooth, you're not going to have any problem. In fact, if you wanted to render a video out in 4K, that was an hour-and-a-half length, movie length video, and then fire up, you know, Crisis or something, I suspect it would run just fine. It wouldn't run the best it could run, obviously, but running two tasks that are very, very intensive on the CPU and on the GPU simultaneously, I would even go so far as to say you could run a third thing that would be using the CPU or GPU and still have acceptable frame rates for playing. I don't know why you'd want to do that, but you could. course, there's enough people on the internet doing a bunch of stuff just because they can, you know, with no practical reason. But I don't know about you, I find this to be impressive. Here we go. So we're looking at, I want you to write these numbers down. Just make a little note of the FPS, the score, the minimum frames per second, and the maximum frames per second, all right? So I'm not gonna remind you what it is because I won't remember. And we're gonna run the same test again without Prime 95. And let's check those temps and see how we're doing. So let's close this out and we'll hit quit. Okay. Here's our maximum temps right up here. We hit temporarily hit 81. This package here is hitting temps higher than the others. You see Core 3. And now that we're still running Prime 95, so those temps are running. This is about as hot as this CPU is going to get maxed out. Now let's. I want you to watch these temperatures right here. This row right here. Watch these temps because I'm going to go over and stop Prime 95. Right? So it's hard for me to determine which mouse is doing what. This row right here is what I want you to watch. This very first. It says 81, 76. All right. Watch this whole row because I'm going to go over here to Prime 95 and I'm going to stop the test and watch how fast those temperatures start dropping. So that's how much time your CPU needs to cool down. With the cooler running, it's almost instantaneous that it just drops almost in half. Now let's run the Heaven benchmark one more time. This time without Prime 95 running. In fact, let me just shut it off entirely. Let's just exit it. Oops. Exit. Run. Waiting for the loading. Okay, here we go. And then F9 to start the test. Here we go. I did update all the parts lists in the video description on this video and the previous video to accurately reflect what parts are in the build since the X62 got swapped out and the notchable fans got swapped out. The pump and fan profile, they want to know which one I'm using, just whatever the default is. And again, we're not on the X62, that just was too tight of a fit. We're on the X52 Kraken liquid cooler. Spectre 7734 has contributed 20 New Zealand dollars. Says, hey Kerry, thanks for the case badge. Well, thank you, Spectre. Thanks for contributing. I'm hearing that, if I lean in, you can start hearing that video card fan. But remember, I've got the case open right now, so it's not optimal airflow, nor is it optimal noise suppression. So when I put the covers back on, it should be a bit quieter and actually run a bit cooler. But I'm not going to do that until I do the cable management, and I'll do the cable management once we're done here with this testing. I'm very happy with how well this is performing, if you couldn't tell. And the noise levels, it's incredibly quiet. Bob Barnes has contributed 10 pounds. He says, thanks for the great content. Well, thank you, Bob. Thanks for your contribution and your support. I really appreciate that. Test is almost over here. We'll have our numbers soon enough. You remember what those numbers were? Remember what our frames per second? You want to put that in the chat as a reminder if anybody wants to do that for a comparison compared to what you're about to see here in a moment. My guess is it's going to be at least twice whatever those numbers were, minimum. There it is. Now look at our frames per second and our score, along with our minimum frames and our maximum frames. So you can see the CPU running cores at 100% definitely has an impact, but the machine is doing it. You know, it's still saying, all right, I'm going to juggle both of these tasks. It's impressive. So anyway, that's the end of that test. I just want to demonstrate that to you guys. Let me go ahead and shut that down. And our CPU, all of our temps should be much, much lower now since Prime 95 wasn't running. I still left the hardware monitor running, and we can see that here. We can see our current temps are, I gotta make my screen bigger so I can read it. Very low, we're below 40. This is our current temp. This is the lowest. I guess I gotta use the right mouse. This is our current temp right here. This is our lowest temps, and these are our peak temperatures. So I really don't like to see the CPU hit the 80s, but it's just hitting it momentarily, so it'll be okay. For the customer's use, they'll be just fine. Because to try and fix that is going to get real expensive for cooling options. I want to show you something here that I thought was pretty interesting, except I can't. Darn it. Gosh darn it. I forgot I have to plug it into the network to do that. So I guess, bear with me for a minute and let me grab a network cable so I can show you something that looks too good to be true. So here in the United States, we have a membership retailer called Costco. And Costco is running a deal right now that I want you guys to be aware of. As much as I am a fan of building your own computer, with the price of, paying for your operating system and the current state of graphics cards, it can actually be cheaper to buy one pre-built. It's not going to be as good as anything you can build yourself. It certainly won't have that personalization to it to make it your own, but what it will do is save you a ton of money. So right up here, let's go to, I think it's at PCWorld.com. I think I read this article today. Yes, the new Samsung 970s are out. They're very expensive, but they're fast. Let's see, where is it? Where did it go? Maybe it wasn't here. let's try. Oops. Oh well, it fixed it for me. Here it is. You can pick up, this is unbelievable. You can pick up an AMD Ryzen 7 1700 with a Radeon RX 560 for $600 at Costco right now. So if we look at, let me see here. Let's just mute this. Okay, so if we look at what it's including, you're getting the AMD Ryzen 7 1700 with 16 gigs of DDR2400 RAM, the Radeon RX 560, and it has a 1 terabyte hard drive and a DVD writer. So of course you're not getting NVMe or M.2, and you're only getting a 400 watt power supply, which if you want to upgrade the GPU later, you certainly can, but you probably want to upgrade that power supply. It's all modular, according to this article. It also has 802.11 AC Wi-Fi, 2 USB 3.0 ports, 4 USB 2.0 ports, VGA and HDMI outputs, 2 headphone microphone combo ports, gigabit LAN, 5.1 audio, and a media card reader right there, $600. I don't think you can build it anywhere near that. You'd probably be looking to build something equivalent. You'd probably be looking around $900 right now at current prices. And there's an additional $15 for shipping if you don't have a Costco near you. Heck of a deal, though. Heck of a deal. All right, let's see if I can bring myself back. Let's go full screen. Full screen. Fit the screen. Boy, they need a shortcut key for this. There we go. Okay, pretty good deal. Expect the Ryzen prices to go down. AMD's current pricing structure looks like they're going to liquidate the first generation Ryzen chips. They want to get rid of them. And the chipset's been improved on the Ryzen 2. The Ryzen 2, the Ryzen 7 2700 as they're calling it, is a significant improvement, not only in the chip itself, but in the chipset that dealt with a lot of latency issues. And you know, when the problem with the Ryzen chips is they didn't scale very well. They're very inconsistent. They would perform really well in single core tasks, and then the more you started asking of the other cores, the more the Intel was beating it. So now with the Ryzen 2, they've addressed that. It's far improved, and the chipset's also been improved. So that's what I've read, and I believe what I've read to be true. So take that with a grain of salt. Somebody was asking if their system can take 2 graphics cards. Not necessarily. You have to look and see what your motherboard supports. Some motherboards support SLI, which is for 2 NVIDIA graphics cards. Some motherboards support Crossfire, which is 2 AMD graphics cards. Some motherboards only support 1 graphics card. And some motherboards support triple and quad graphics cards. But and some motherboards allow for either SLI or Crossfire. So what you need to do is you need to look up the make and model of your motherboard. Go to Google, type in the make and model of your motherboard, go to the manufacturer's website, read the specifications and read the manual. It will tell you what your board supports. Usually right on the first page where the motherboard's being promoted, it advertises all of the features the manufacturer wants you to know about. If it says nothing about dual video cards, there's a reason why. If it does support it, the manufacturer will boast about it. If it doesn't support it, the manufacturer will not mention it. Do not go asking people on the internet before you drop $600 to $800 on a graphics card. I think that would be very unwise. I wouldn't spend my $600 or $800 based on what some stranger on the internet told me. But I would look up and research it myself because it's my money. A point is made in the chat. Not all games support SLI or dual video cards. Some games actually perform worse. You get some tearing. You'll get, in some cases, the game won't work at all. You're opening up yourself to a world of headaches. I don't recommend it. And I believe SLI's, the popularity of it is waning. It's going away. Because of the expensive graphics cards and because of the diminutive return on investment when it does work, people just aren't really adapting it. For a while it was kind of fad. People were doing it. And supporters, game developers were supporting it with updates to the game. NVIDIA and AMD were updating drivers to support it, which introduced a whole slew of new problems that they had to address. The manufacturers of the games had to address their problems. And at the end of the day, your frame rates are not going to double just because you have 2 video cards. The frame rates will improve, but how much so depends on the game and the settings that you're choosing, but you're not going to see double. So the return on investment just isn't there. I suggest you put that money into an M.2 NVMe or a faster CPU, or maybe just put it away and build a new computer. That would be my recommendation. Someone's asking if a particular motherboard is a good motherboard or not. The only thing that determines if a motherboard is good or not is whether or not it meets your needs and budget. Nobody on the internet can tell you that. You can ask somebody if it's good for them, but they don't know you, and they don't know what your needs, expectation, and budget are. And while they're more than happy to give you their opinion, it is completely worthless to you. You will have to do your own research, look at the benchmarks, look at how many SATA ports, how many graphics cards the board supports, look at what chipset the board supports, look at the reviews of the board, what people are saying about it, and make the decision that fits you. Asking people on the internet how to spend your money is extraordinarily unwise. People will spend your money for you. No problem. There's a lot of people volunteering for that. They're more than happy to tell you how to spend your money. I'm telling you, it's your money. You should do your own research and look it up. Google is your friend. And you can go to any of the retailers' websites that sell that board, Amazon, Newegg, read the reviews, read what people are saying. Go right to those 1, 2, and 3-star reviews to determine if the things that people are complaining about will impact you at all. And make the decision that's right for you. And just because it's right for you, don't go recommending it to anybody else, because nobody else has your expectations. So you just tell them exactly what I'm telling you. Do your research. If you really want to help somebody, if you're sincere about wanting to help, never provide them the answer unless you are willing to give them your name, telephone number, and tell them to call you anytime they have questions or problems, so that you can be held accountable for the information you were providing. Then you don't seem like you're so eager to help, right? So if you really sincerely want to help people, encourage them how easy it is to use Google, look up the part, read the reviews, and make up their own mind. That's the best advice you can ever give anybody regarding something that's going to be an investment, a financial investment on their part. Polestar69's contributed 10 pounds. It says, thanks for inspiring me to build my own system. Thank you, Polestar. Thanks for your contribution, and it's awesome that you built your own system. Very cool. Looks like all the parts for Threadripper are supposed to be here on Wednesday. We'll see if that actually happens. Still planning the build for Monday. If everything comes in on Wednesday as scheduled, then the build should happen on Monday as scheduled. And that buys me 3 days of shipping, just in case anything's running a little behind. So that way, I know I've got everything together before we begin. A lot of people were asking about charities, and this is a good example of that. They said, would you give the Threadripper build out to a charity? The Threadripper build, as I mentioned, is it's too big. It's not practical for any charity to accept that. But for the price of the Threadripper, so this organization I like is called Kids at Hope. And they're an organization that helps find the treasure inside of every child. Every child has a talent and a gift and is a treasure. And sometimes kids need a little help, some kids, determining their self-worth. And so this organization does that. And it's a small organization. They only have 4 computers that they run for 4 employees. And if we were going to donate something to them, I would say those Lenovo's I just showed you at $600 a piece, 4 of those would cost $2,400, which is almost half the price of that single Threadripper system. And it would be, I mean, aside from perhaps adding an SSD or something just to add a little more performance, they're pretty well good to go out of the box. That would be a good charitable donation. So what I'm going to do, since there's so much interest in that, after the Threadripper build's done, and we'll wait about a month or 2, and I'll talk with the president over at Kids at Hope, his name is Rick, and see if he's interested in coming on camera, telling us a little bit about the organization, its history, why it exists, and find out if there's an interest there for us to build some reasonable machines to replace the ones they have. I don't think they have any problems with the ones they have. They're not the latest and greatest. I think they're 3 or 4 years old. They're Core i5s. And they do all of the administrative work that they need done. It's not to say they wouldn't benefit from something newer. And then the question happens, well, what happens to their old systems? Do they give those to another charity that's worse than them, you know, as far as need goes? And when they do, what about that charity's computer? Where do those computers go to? They give them to a charity that's less. This is where things start getting a little bit hairy, because you want to do good, but at the same time, you can start creating a support nightmare where then if they have a problem with any of the computers in the chain, and you are the one at the beginning of the chain, you're the one who gets the phone call, and they're going to expect it fixed for free. So we have to enter this a little bit cautiously. We have to sort of think of all the negative things that can happen from trying to help. But if the support is there from the viewers and they want to donate towards the Kids at Hope Charity Foundation, and Kids at Hope wants to participate in it, we'll visit that in a couple of months and we'll see how that goes. But that's just an idea. It's just a seed I'm planting now, just to something to think about. Carrie, would you consider going and building a computer on site? Scrolled up too fast. With those kids, if there were any interested, that's not my choice. That putting children on camera can be an issue legally. So I'd have to talk with the kids' parents. Would have to sign releases. Again, things start getting really complicated. There can be unintended side effects. You know, if let's say, for example, we bring some kids on and we do this, and the video airs and the video is very popular, and one of the parents says, I don't want my kid on your video, it's too popular, we didn't know it was going to be that popular. I have no choice but to take the video down. I will have no choice. Even if they sign an agreement, the cost of going to the court to defend the contract would be more money than YouTube pays me by far. The only people that so I open myself to the opportunity of having the content completely removed. And again, I have to think of every possible negative scenario that can come from trying to do something nice, because it's happened so many times where there's been unintended negative consequences to what was supposed to be a voluntary good deed that didn't have to spend my time, didn't have to spend my money, and now I'm being harassed and beaten for it. So if I'm going to do it, I have to make sure to block all the potential ways that people can use that against me. Or otherwise, you just avoid the whole scenario, or you do it anonymously. So doing it anonymously isn't really beneficial to my channel. Again, I don't anticipate something like that would happen, but you never do when it does, which makes it that much worse. Be very, very careful when you are doing anything for a charity or to help an individual. You may find that you end up regretting the consequences of that. You know, there's been enough stories personally of people I know that have helped a friend that didn't have any place to live, and they let that person live in their house rent-free, and the person trashed their house, told them how terrible they were as people. And all they didn't have to let that person live there. They were just, they felt bad for them, and they paid a price for it. And they ended up having to repair all the damage, and luckily didn't have to call the police to get the person out. Sometimes the person refuses to leave, and you can't kick them out. By law, things get really, really complex over just trying to extend a helping hand. And it's hard to know ahead of time who's going to appreciate your gift and your generosity, and who's going to take it and then complain about it and make your life miserable. So you've got to enter into this stuff very, very cautiously. And there's stories of people that had somebody stay with them, and then that person stayed, appeared to be fine, and then they wake up and notice things are starting to go missing, jewelry and things like that. Or the person moves out, and a month later they're robbed. Well, guess what? The person that used to live there knew where everything was, came back and took all their stuff, or took anything of value. Over and over and over again. I realize I'm only telling you the bad stories. There's obviously people who do appreciate the help, but this really makes it difficult to know the difference. And Kids at Hope is a great organization. They're the real deal. I believe in what they do. But when we start involving others, other charities or other individuals, that's when you start opening the doors to unknowns, and that's where you're walking a bit of a tightrope. And again, the best of intentions can have some of the worst unintended consequences that punish the giver. So be very cautious in how you help others. Do help others when you can, but protect yourself first and foremost. You need to be able to take care of yourself before you can take care of somebody else. Is there a difference between liquid-cooled and normal-cooled systems in terms of performance? So I'll tell you this for the 6th time in the last week. I've talked about this 6 times. So here it is for the 6th, well, I've said it 5 times. Here it is for the 6th time. And I'll try to make a note to myself to cut this piece out and post it as its own video so I don't have to answer it a 7th time. There are air coolers that are stock that come with the CPU, if it's a non-K or non-X CPU. There are tower coolers, which are also air coolers. That's like the Evo 212. And then there are liquid coolers. The stock coolers that come with the non-K and non-X CPUs are adequate. They're fine. They can be a bit loud. The tower coolers are about $30 to $100. I like the Hyper 212 Evo. It's quiet. It's very reliable. There's not much to look at. Then you have liquid coolers. Liquid coolers are used for overclocking only. If you're not going to overclock, you're wasting your money. A liquid cooler has a water pump. That water pump will burn up in about 4 to 5 years, and you will have to replace it. On your tower cooler, if your fan dies, you just replace the fan. That's the only thing that can happen. If you're not overclocking, you don't need a liquid cooler. Liquid coolers are not quieter, generally speaking, unless you change out the fans. The liquid coolers include generally a couple of cheap fans. You want to change those fans out. Liquid cooler will run you, like the X62 is $260, the X52 is about $140, and then the fans are about $20 to $30 each to quiet those things down. The Hyper 212 or the tower air coolers, those are, like I say, $30 to $100. They don't have the long-term consequences. You can overclock with a tower cooler, but not the maximum. To maximum overclock, you need a liquid cooler. And then, of course, if you're running an i5 or below, the stock cooler's fine. It's free, it comes with the CPU, you can't beat it for the money. If it's i7, the fan can get a bit loud. If that bothers you, you can invest in a quieter case, you can invest in an air tower cooler, or you can invest in a liquid cooler and change out the fans to higher quality fans. So those are your options. If you're not overclocking, you don't need the liquid cooler. If noise bothers you, go to the tower cooler, and if budget's your main concern, buy a CPU that includes a stock cooler. Hope I cleared that up. If you don't know what overclocking is, use Google. Google is your friend. Type into Google, what is overclocking? Save me the effort of explaining the basics. If you don't know what it is, it doesn't concern you. You don't have to worry about it. Oren has contributed $5. Says, I'm in the process of building an X299, X399 system with a custom loop and some case modding on the Corsair 900D. It sounds like a lot of work, but it should be fun. Share some pictures of it if you would. Take some video and share it with us. It would be great. We'd love to see it. I found magnetic levitation fans are not quieter. No, magnetic levitation fans are louder, but they don't have any bearing. They're just magnetic levitation. But they're also harder to control the speed, and as a result, they're louder. That should improve over time, but for right now, if you want quiet, stay away from the maglev. William Haran's contributed €5. It says, your time and effort is greatly appreciated, Kerry. Thank you. Well, thank you, William. Thanks for your contribution. Do you get PWM fans with a liquid cooler? Usually no. Again, a liquid cooler, they're going to include cheap fans. They always do. If you want to go PWM, you have to replace the stock fans that come with liquid coolers. Now, there may be a liquid cooler here or there that's sold. That's an exception to the rule. But for the most part, every liquid cooler you've seen me install all have 3-pin fans. And that's why these were upgraded to the Noctua. And this is, again, one of the, if not the quietest system I have ever built. But you can pretty much guarantee that pump's going to need to be replaced around 2023, if not 2022. In all likelihood, that pump's going to go out. It's not going to leak, but his temps are going to start running high. And it's exactly what I showed in the Cosmos 2 repair, which, again, happened about 4 or 5 years after the Cosmos 2 was built. It was returned with running... it was hitting 91 degrees Celsius, which was the throttling point on that chip that it has. And he was wondering, why is it hitting 91 and not doing anything? Well, 91 was its max temp. And the lines, you just touched the lines and they were really, really hot to the touch. And that just told me the pump wasn't running. It just happens. It's a moving part. Anytime you have a moving part, that's a part that's likely to fail. Whether it's a mechanical hard drive, a pump, a fan, anything that moves, those are your points of failure. More likely than not. Other things can fail, solid state can fail, but it's less likely. Sterling3371 contributed $2. He says, Kerry, have a Coke on me. All right, I think I will. Thank you. Kerry, would you delid an i7 CPU and add liquid metal to it? Only if I was stupid. That is just one of the dumbest, most impractical things and a waste of money, and you can damage your CPU all for what? For what? You're solving a problem that does not exist. Anybody who wants to do that clearly has no thermodynamics college academic education. You might as well just come right out and go, hey everybody, I know nothing about thermodynamics. So I'm going to show you how to remove your heat spreader, almost damage your CPU, replace the cheap thermal material with liquid metal very carefully and very expensively, buy special tools to glue it all back together again so that I can achieve what? Cooler temps? You shouldn't even care about what your temps are. It should never even enter your mind until you're having a problem. When you're diagnosing the problem and you find that your temps are high, now you've got a problem to solve. But I guarantee you the solution to that problem is not delidding your CPU. That's something you see on other tech channels that aren't practical, that they don't hold any accountability or liability to any of their actions to any customers. No customer will pay you to do that. There are organizations that will do it for you. There's a company that will delid the processor and do that for you, and they'll accept that risk and charge you money for that. But I think you're a fool. I honestly, sincerely think you're a fool. You have too much money burning a hole in your pocket if that's how you want to spend it. Because no matter what you can do with that CPU, there'll be a better CPU out within 18 months that'll smoke your CPU. With the cheap thermal compound, it'll leave your CPU in the dust. And all you had to do was wait a couple of months and replace your CPU, which would be a better investment, give you a better return, and have no risk, no liability, and a full warranty. So if you're asking me if you should destroy your warranty, threaten to damage your CPU to replace the thermal material, which is more than adequate for running that CPU at the way it was engineered to run, that's warranted by the company, I'd say you're a fool. But that's just what I think. Doesn't mean you are a fool, just means I think you're a fool. Alan Butterfield's contributed 10 pounds, and thank you, Alan. Thank you for your contribution. What is the average life of an average desktop computer? The average desktop computer will last until it doesn't suit your needs anymore. So for some people that'll be 2 years, for some people it'll be 10 years. With regards to the electronics, it depends on how smooth the power delivery is in your area and how often you use the computer. Is it on 24/7 or do you use it sparingly? Generally speaking, the computers that are left on 24/7 tend to last longer and have fewer problems from my experience. Remember, I've been doing this professionally for 27 years, and I can tell you, if you want your computer to last as long as possible, never turn it off. This does not apply to laptops or tablets. This applies to desktops only. With laptops and tablets, you start running into some heat issues. They're not intended to be left on 24/7. RevTech1 contributed $3.99. Thank you, RevTech. And Alec Freighters contributed 5 pounds. Says, keep up the good work, Kerry. Well, thank you, Alec. I've always liked that name, Alec. Alec and Alex, I've always liked those names. At the time, do you think 8 gigs of RAM is enough? It might be enough, it might not be enough. It depends on how you use your computer, what your expectations are, what applications you run. It's like asking me, is this plate of food gonna fill me up? Well, it might fill you up, it might not fill you up, it depends how hungry you are. You cannot go onto the internet and expect to get an answer that means anything from questions that have to do with how you feel. The only one who knows how you feel is you. So is 8 gigs enough? Throw it in and you tell me. Are you satisfied? If not, go buy another 8 gig matching stick, slap it in there, and now you're at 16. Now you know. There's no way anybody on the internet can tell you how much food for you to eat before you're going to be satiated, that you'll be satisfied. Nobody can tell you that. And you can ask, and people will give you answers, but those answers are completely meaningless. Think about what you're asking. Are these the donations that we're seeing now that YouTube takes 30%? Yes. But when they're $2, $5, $10 donations, it's fine. When they're significant, $50 or more, I'd appreciate if you use the TechVets donation page, because these donations that are made through Super Chat, I don't see those for 30 or 60 days, and YouTube takes 30%. Using the TechVets donation button that goes through PayPal, PayPal takes 2.99%, whatever it is, and then I get the money instantly. So again, on these $2 and $5, it's a great way if you want to draw attention to yourself and have me shout your name out on the screen. The other way, I won't see your donation until after the broadcast. I also have no record of the donations made through this channel, through the Super Chat. YouTube doesn't give me a history of that, unfortunately. So I have no way to really record it for any sort of future acknowledgement. Dan Case contributed £1.50. Thank you, Dan. Do gamers and other content creators have to overclock? Nobody has to overclock. Who has to climb Mount Everest? Nobody has to climb Mount Everest. It's an enthusiast hobby. That's all it is. It's expensive, like many hobbies. It gives you very little in return for your investment, like most hobbies. You ever go skiing? Have you ever gone snow skiing and bought your own equipment? You know how much money it costs for ski equipment? You know how much money it costs for a lift ticket? And then if you hit a tree or twist your ankle, you could die or break a bone. That's what people do for fun. Scuba diving, you know how much money it costs to scuba dive? Does anybody have to scuba dive? maybe if you're a marine biologist or a Navy SEAL, but for the most part, people that scuba dive as a hobby spend a lot of money. And if you come up too quickly, you can get the bends, you can bust your inner eardrum and get a brain infection and die. It is insane what people do for fun. I don't find that to be fun. Skydiving, very expensive. A lot of fun, but if your chute doesn't open, you'll never do it again. So these are hobbies. They don't necessarily, they're not practical, they don't make any sense. People make the investment for the enjoyment, the entertainment value they get. They're not making it out of any practical reason. So that's what overclocking is. Brightech says he can't do super chat in the UK version of YouTube. Bill Ellerland is joined. Oh, got a couple of our big UK fans here today. Or call them fans. Hi, Bill. Mike Ladd's contributed $2. He says, I need attention. LOL, just kidding. Mike Ladd, Mike Ladd, Mike Ladd, Mike Glad, Mike Ladd. Sounds very similar, doesn't it? All right, you know what I want to do? I want to get this shut down and start doing the cable management. Let's just do that now. I really would like to get this shipped out today. I've got company coming in from out of town tomorrow, so I don't expect to be live streaming Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. Friday night, maybe, I don't know. It depends on what my company's plans are. Like I say, they're coming in from out of town, so they're gonna have my full attention. And then Saturday and Sunday, I don't think I'm doing anything live. Sunday will be spent prepping for Monday's Threadripper build, assuming I get all the parts. And then there's gonna be a lot of prep for Monday. I'm gonna have to wake up early and set the table up outside. It's 97 degrees Fahrenheit again today, so I'm probably gonna have to bring a shop rag out there to wipe the sweat off of me. I'm gonna have a ton of cables running across the yard, 4 cameras, 4 tripods, 4 HDMI cables all strung out across the yard. Plus I got to get power out there some way. I got to the big screen TV out there some way. I got to get the streaming computer out there. It's going to be a lot of setup work. Plus I got to get all the parts out there, get them unboxed, get them ready to rock and roll. And that setup is going to be a pain in the butt, but should be totally worth it. And I'm so looking forward to the build. Live stream your party. I'm not having a party. That would be like being social with people in real life. I don't do that. Let's not get crazy. Carrie, apart from computers, what else do you love? I love dogs, I love cars, and I love music. And guns. We don't really talk about the guns anymore. There's a certain segment of the population that cannot process that information. They're incapable of putting themselves in anybody else's shoes, and they're incapable of understanding, and they're unwilling to understand why that would be appealing. And so what it ends up doing is it splits your audience into those who refuse to see any common middle ground on the air, and then you have others, about the other half, that are like, yeah, I love that. So that's what we end up with. We've lost, our society is losing, in my opinion, the ability to say, I don't understand something, but I still respect it. Now they say, I don't understand something, and therefore it should not exist. That it seems to be the way the things are moving. And so it's best when you hit those particular topics that generate that reaction from people unwilling or unable to comprehend someone else's perspective and respect it. It's best to avoid those topics if you want to, unless you want to be one of those guys. You know, if you want to be an Alex Jones, you know, you can generate that audience. I don't want to be that guy. So you don't really see that stuff much on the channel anymore because they've ruined it. And YouTube is part of that. and they are shutting down some channels that feature guns, and that's only the beginning. It's going to get worse. That's what I predict. And all these things people are claiming are offensive, 20 or 30 years from now, you're going to look back on what they did, and you're going to see how offensive they were, and were totally unrealistic about punishing people who did something 30 years ago that was acceptable 30 years ago, but is offensive today, and now they want to punish people for it. I have a real big issue with this. Things that were acceptable 20, 30 years ago, they are punishing people today for what they did 20 or 30 years ago. And 20 or 30 years ago, it was acceptable. Today, it's not. And those very people that are doing that, when they look back at what they did 20 or 30 years from now, they're going to see how offensive it was. And I'm not talking about that action. I'm talking about other unrelated actions that are considered okay in society today that will not be considered okay in society 20 or 30 years from now. So that's evolution. That's how society works. But to take and punish people for doing something that was acceptable 20 or 30 years ago, I have a problem with that. So anyway, so best to just avoid that whole sort of political side of it, and we'll keep it on computers and tech and try and bring everybody together, regardless of their ability of putting themselves in somebody else's shoes. We just don't even offer them that opportunity, and everybody should be getting along. What's my favorite food? Pizza. Jeff says he needs more Subaru mic. I have the rest of the Subaru mic, the Forester, where we extract the engine, delete the air pump, rebuild it, put it back in, drive it off. That's all been filmed. It's waiting on editing. The editing computer's still not done. I'm streaming with it now. That's the Ryzen 7 1700. All of the settings in Power Director, my editing software, have all been erased because I had to reinstall clean. And there's a zillion little settings I forgot. Everything from default transition settings. Every time I do a transition, I have to manually change it. So I have to find where that setting is and set it back. My rendering output, I have custom files that I did the math on it, figuring out what my kilobits per second had to be at 1080 and at 4K. I forgot what it is. So I got to hook the old motherboard back up with the old hard drive and start writing all this stuff down so I can reconfigure it back onto the new one. Then I can start editing on it again. Because right now the file that I edited, I just did one edit on the new Ryzen. The file came out huge, which was fine because I was live streaming that file. If you guys remember, that was me adding the quad port HDMI to the streamer, and I pre-recorded it, and then I rendered it, and the rendering size was humongous. But again, it was just something that I streamed the pre-recorded video, so the size was irrelevant. But I need to address that, and I need to get it fixed, because otherwise I'm going to run out of hard drive space after 2 or 3 edits, and that'll be done. What do you think about blockchain technology? I think it's great. I love blockchain technology. I love that nobody can cook the books on blockchain. You know, everything's real. Well, everything's true with regards to, you know, an accountant can, what we call, cook the books. They can fudge numbers because they have one ledger. With blockchain, there's copies of the ledger on all the computers in the blockchain. So if you make a change to the ledger here, it changes the ledger all the way around. So it can't be manipulated in the same way. It can still be manipulated. There are, you know, situations where you can pump up the value of the cryptocurrencies and then sell it off at an inflated value. And that can make you a lot of money, and it manipulates the system. And it's illegal, but people advertise doing it. But the concept of blockchain, I think, is a really good idea. It's being abused currently. It's being taken advantage of. A lot of people are very greedy or exploiting others, taking advantage of others. I don't like that, but that's people. That's not the issue with blockchain. That's an issue with people. Carrie, do you like, dislike, or have any opinion at all on the iFixit and their toolkits? I like iFixit. I don't need their toolkits. I've already got all my tools, but I suppose if I was just starting out today, I think the iFixit toolkits are very good, and I think the information at iFixit is also very good. Any more cookery videos on the Carrie Holzman show? Maybe, maybe. Let's work on Threadripper first, though, okay? Let's do that first. Is there a way to export the settings in Cyberlink? So that's the question, right? Do you do the research to find out where all the Cyberlink settings are and extract them and try and import them? Versus do you just reset the settings? Which one will take you less time? So, Cyberlink doesn't have an export tool. You'd have to find the INI file where it's, I think it's under a hidden directory under users, app data, roaming, Cyberlink, settings. You have to dig down deep. And I think you could copy it and move it over, but I'm not sure. And when you compare that investment of time, remembering I'd have to hook up the old drive, extract the file to the new drive, and then check all the settings manually. If I got to check the settings manually to confirm that they're there, why don't I just change them manually and save myself a step? That's my lazy attitude about it. My efficient attitude. Can I safely connect 2 NAS devices to one router? You can connect up to 255 NAS devices to one router. You can actually connect more than that, but I mean, just straight out of the box, put enough switches on there, yeah. Hook up as many as you want. 254 to be exact. I checked my hard drive a while ago and it got a caution on Crystal Disk Info. It said it had high reallocated sector count and current pending sector counts on it. Should I replace my hard drive? Honestly, as long as you have a backup of your hard drive, you can wait till it dies. If you don't want to wait till it dies, if you want to go ahead and start shopping around now and find a better deal on a hard drive, maybe a good opportunity to look for something faster. Maybe go to SSD where you won't have these kind of problems anymore, or you're less likely to. Maybe even M.2 if your motherboard supports it. Otherwise, just make a backup of all your data, which you should always have anyway, since most people, when the hard drives fail, don't get a warning. They just wake up one day and it doesn't work. Once again, leaving the computer on 24/7 will reduce the likelihood of that happening, but all mechanical drives will fail. They all fail. So all you can do is always back up your important data. If you want, make a complete image of the computer as often as need be, so that you can replace the hard drive, restore the image, and be right back where you were. Remember, with backups, hard drive failures are just an inconvenience. Without backups, they can ruin your life. It's amazing the amount of confidence somebody can have with a backup, you know, where these things are just don't create any anxiety. You're not worried at all. If anything, you're just a little upset that that you have the inconvenience. But when you lose the data, yeah, that's a whole different problem altogether. And then you're looking at data recovery services. You're going to spend probably, if the data can be returned and recovered, minimum of about $400 to $600 in most cases. So backup costs a lot less than that. Also, it's not like you're going to get your backup, your data restored overnight either. It's going to take a while. All right. Any other questions here, or can I start doing some cable management? Gary, the power settings, there's an option of shutting down the hard drive. Should I disable it? Yes. The whole point of what I'm trying to tell you is when you have a problem with your computer, it's likely going to happen when you turn the computer on. So if you have your computer going to sleep, or you have any devices in the computer going to sleep, they are powering down. That is not avoiding the problem. If you leave the computer running 24/7, it means you do not ever turn off your hard drive. You disable that so the hard drive is running constantly. You can have your monitor turn off, that's fine, but leave everything else on. That's, you know, usually when the computer sleeps and you wake it from sleep, a lot of people can't get reconnected to the network. A lot of people can't wake up USB devices. That's why you should disable all that. Go to advanced power settings.
You can have your CPU go ahead and cycle down to 5%. That's no problem. It's not using very much power. You're not really going to see any difference on your electric bill. What's going to use the most amount of power is having your CPU run 100% all the time and having your monitor on all the time. Those are your two big power sucks. So always have your hard drive running 24/7. Always. And it'll still fail, but it should take longer before it gets there. Somebody's contributed $200 through Super Chat. James Razzo says, thanks for the great videos. Well, thanks for the contribution, James. Unfortunately, you sent it through Super Chat, and now YouTube's going to grab 30% of that and make me wait 60 days before I'll see it. I do hope that people that are making sizable contributions will use the donate button at tech-vets.com, because I'll see the money instantly and I'll have a record of it. James, I have no record of your transaction. I don't know if there's a way for you to cancel that so you can resubmit it back through the PayPal button, the donate button at TechVets. I want to thank you for a very generous contribution. I just wish you hadn't done it that way. If you can retract it and resubmit it, I would appreciate it. If you can't, I still appreciate your effort very much. I don't want to sound ungrateful. I just wish you'd done it a different way. Yeah, that's an amazing donation. Very, very generous. Some amazing viewers out there. That more than makes up for the trolls. I'll tell you what. Is RAID 0 good for gaming and storage? RAID 0 is just a bad idea unless you are somebody who's religious about backups. What a RAID 0 does is it takes the read and writes of a hard drive, and it takes the read and writes of another hard drive, and it shares the tasks. So with RAID 0, you need a minimum of 2 hard drives. And you can add more and more and more. But the more you add, the less return on investment you start getting. So let's say this hard drive reads at 160 megabytes a second, and you take another hard drive, ideally one that's the same size, make, and model, and they both read at 160. So now when you're reading, it's going to read half of your data off of this hard drive and half of the data off of this hard drive at the same time. So you're not going to get 320 megabytes per second, but you're going to get probably in the upper 200s. You're going to boost your speed. Same with your write speed. But if this drive fails or this drive fails, it's like the computer sees any amount of hard drives, whether it's 2 hard drives, 3, 4, 5 in a RAID 0, as one big hard drive. All their capacities are added up together. So if you have 4 1 terabyte hard drives in a RAID 0, your computer sees one 4 terabyte C drive. That's what it's going to see. And if any of those drives fail, it's as if your C drive just failed. There is very little data recovery, if any, to be done. You will lose everything. Data recovery would cost you about $400 per drive. So on a 4-drive RAID 0, that's 4, 8, 12, $1,600, if it's even possible to get the data back, which it may not be depending on how the drive failed and why. So you are getting performance with exceptional risk. As long as you're always having a backup, that risk doesn't matter anymore. So on the Threadripper build, we're going to do a RAID 0 using 3 M.2 500 gigabyte Samsung 960 EVO drives, NVMe drives. So those 500 gig drives times 3 is 1.5 terabytes. The computer's going to see one C drive on the Threadripper. The size of the C drive will be the 3 times 500 all added up together, representing one virtual C drive. And so the reads and writes will be shared equally among all 3 drives. So when I write a file, 33%, 1/3 of the file will go to each of those M.2s. When I read a file, 1/3 of the file will be read from each of those. Each drive stores 1/3 of every file. So it can read all 3 drives at the same time and write to all 3 drives at the same time, which results in a significant performance boost. How significant? I don't know. That's part of the experiment of the Threadripper build. But I guarantee you, it'll be much faster than a single M.2, which is already really, really fast. If any M.2 fails, the whole thing's erased. It's all gone. So it's not a big deal for me because when the system is built, I'll take an image of all 3 drives. Remember, it's going to see it as one C drive. The computer doesn't. The computer says, I just see 1 drive, even though it's really made up of 3. If you open up a hard drive, a physical hard drive, there's a number of platters inside. You don't see those platters, do you? No, you just see 1 C drive. You don't see platter 1, side A, platter 1, side B, platter 2, side A, platter. You just see 1 C drive. And if one of those platters fails, your whole hard drive's gone. So RAID 0 is working that way with the hard drives themselves, whether it's M.2 drives, SSDs, or mechanical drives. It doesn't matter. A hard drive's a hard drive as far as your BIOS is concerned. So the RAID 0 then takes that and it now there's a software RAID. That's horrible. Don't ever use software RAID. That's a waste of resources and it defeats the point of a RAID 0 configuration. So again, super high reads and writes, very, very high risk. As long as you have backups that are current, who cares? Have we got a name for the Threadripper build? No, names are still being proposed. If anybody's got any ideas for what we're going to name the Threadripper, certainly open to suggestions for that, of course. Some of these questions, I swear, you people just go to Google. Just go to Google and type your question exactly the way you just typed it in the chat, and you will have your answer far more detailed than what I can give you off the cuff. You can pull up Wikipedia pages, you can pull up WikiHow pages that are going to be far more thorough in their explanations than what I can give you off the top of my head. So just like the RAID 0 explanation, that is fully explained in detail at least 400 websites, plus other YouTube videos. Be sure and use the keyboard that sits in front of you contains the wealth of the most amount of knowledge of the human race ever developed in the history of this planet. And all you have to do is push the buttons and click the mouse. That's all you have to do. Did you get any info on the spring update of Windows 10? As far as I know, there hasn't been any update. Still not released yet. Have I seen any videos on other people rating M.2s? No, I don't want to. That is something, I don't want to have any preconceived ideas or notions, so I'm just going to enter into it on my own and not have any, I don't want my mind poisoned with what somebody else did. Douglas, thank you for your comments there in the chat. Yes, please do. If you guys can help with those answers, I would appreciate it. I'm just going through as many questions as I can. I really don't want to alienate anybody, but I also want people to be empowered for some of these questions that there's nothing specific that you're going to get from me that's any different than if you Google it. On the other hand, there are other questions that are more specific to, for example, the Threadripper build or what's going on behind me that I certainly you would have to address with me, and I'll certainly answer those. I heard people complain about microstutter with RAID 0 in games. Well, people complain about anything. I mean, just look at me. I don't know if that's true or not. It seems like a pretty bad programming on the game if it stutters in RAID 0. But it could be driver related. NJP Vlogs and stuff says, got a couple of videos for you in Dropbox, just a heads up. Please contact me through my email address. If you don't have it, then send me a private message here on YouTube. But remember, you have to go back and check your messages section of YouTube. It will not let you know when you receive a response. I respond to everybody within 24 hours, so if you don't check your messages, or some people have their privacy settings cranked up on YouTube where they can send messages, but they've turned off the ability for anybody to reply to them, in which case I can't reply to you. Or friend me on Facebook and reach out in a private message to me on Facebook. Those are the two ways. Anybody who contributes through the PayPal button, through the donate button, which uses PayPal at tech-vets.com, will have my email address. Those people who contribute, I want them to have my email address. The people who don't, I want to keep it from them, because I want to make sure that I'm spending time talking to the people that are giving and not just taking. And for everybody else, for whatever reason, why they don't give or why they can't give, that's fine. They can continue to take the content I create. That's well and good. But when they want more from me than that, that's when the problems start. Especially people who want to punish me and start adding my email address to a bunch of spam newsletters and such. They just throw the email address in all these newsletters and all these websites. And my spam folder does a great job. I probably get about 1,000 messages a day. And of those 1,000, about 960 of them are spam. So the filter's doing a really, really good job. Okay, NJP Vlogs, got my message. Thank you. We'll talk in email. Okay, let me see if I can do some cable management now. Would like to get this done sometime today. I don't normally show the cable management side of things because it varies from one machine to the next, depending on the case, depending on the hardware, the length of the cables, the number of cables. There's a lot of variables here. But all we're doing really is just trying to make it look pretty, whatever we got. You work with what you got, just like in real life, you know? You find your strengths, you exploit them, you do your best to hide your weaknesses. This is generally a rule of life. It applies to cable management. It's really no more complicated than that. When you're going to do your cable management, be prepared to waste a few zip ties. You might accidentally see, like I've got these cables crossing over. I don't like that. You could accidentally wire tie something and go, I don't like that. And you have to cut it off and throw it away. That's part of the process. Expect to burn through a few of them. Wire ties are cheap, so be generous with them. Allow yourself to make, to waste a couple, I guess is what I'm saying. Allow yourself the ability to waste a few of those and not feel bad about it. They're very inexpensive. So I'm just doing a little cable rerouting. Everything down in here looks pretty good. Really not much I have to do in here. The bulk of it is all going to be in the back and trying to figure out how to make this look acceptable. And this I've got to be careful with because it's going to stick out. It could prevent the cover from closing, so I got to make sure that that gets laid flat. So what I'm looking to do at this point, so we've got a SATA cable. These SATA cables kind of, well, no, they're okay, I guess. Then we got our power cable here. This power cable will probably be better if I use the end of it instead of using the middle, I think. See, I don't like how that See the way this SATA cable overlaps? I think I would prefer if it went behind. So it's these little types of error, not error correction, but refinement of the cable management, I guess is what I would call it. And this is why I don't spend too much time during the building worrying about this stuff, because I figure I'm probably going to change it when it's all done anyway. So if there's something obvious, you know, obviously if I can run the cable right the first time, I prefer to do that, but it can be difficult to sort of predict how other cables may interfere as you progress in your build. How do I want to do this? I want to bring it up, bring it behind maybe like that, and then in like this. And then back into the optical drive. There we go. I think all that's gonna. I don't like this. I don't like this one bit. Let's go take that out. Let's try it down here instead. So you just moving that cable, I think makes it look a lot cleaner. I've got this pair right here. I just gotta maybe just push those up. Try to remove most of the slack. Remember, this is the side you're gonna be able to see. This side you're not gonna see at all, so. This cable is still giving me grief, I think. See the way this SATA cable's kind of routing in between? I don't like that. And again, you may end up doing this quite a few times as you find other cables start interfering. It's just part of the process. The more you do it, the better you'll get at it. Most of you will only do it once every few years unless you're building systems for friends and family. Take your time and enjoy it. Enjoy it while it lasts, because before you know it, it'll be done. Let's see, as we go behind. Yes. And then maybe down below. How about that? If we do that, will that work any better? Where'd it go? Oh, it's right here. Okay. I've got no cable management for these cables. That's unfortunate. There's usually loops around here where I can tie this cable back like this. This case does not give me any loops at all. That sucks. And these trays are a little in the way. I think I'll just run it behind the tray and push it and just hope it stays. You know, once the cover's on, it should stay there, but I wish I had a zip tie to lock that down. There just isn't any, there's no cable management here for this. I have a loop here and I have a loop here. It looks like I have 2 loops for zip ties on the entire back of this case. I don't think you're going to be seeing me use this case again. I completely forgot about its severe lack of cable management options. It's easy to forget when you work on as many as I work on, but I think I'm going to remember it this time. This one's taught me a number of lessons. I'm going to use this zip tie just momentarily to sort of bundle everything together and let me visualize how I want to do this. Let's just get that pulled off. And let's fix this little mess. This is our fans and cabling for the liquid cooler radiator. And let's see, let's do this. See if we can straighten this cable out a little bit. Just take the bends out of it. Much better. Sometimes just taking the bends out of your cables makes the cable management, it helps you visualize it much easier. You look at it and go, oh, it's not so bad. We can just bundle that right up. Put one there. Put one there. Sometimes it might start off looking a little weak, but you can always improve on that. So you got to start somewhere. You just got to, every journey begins with the same 2 steps, whether you're walking a block or you're walking 1,000 miles. You start with the same first 2 steps, and that'll help guide you the rest of the way. And if you need to go back and make some changes, it just starts becoming clearer and clearer as you progress. You'll be able to start seeing your destination. And I mean that in both a figurative way and a literal way. I have no loops here to hold this up, which bothers me. And I have no loops to hold these off to the side, which sucks. So that may be as good as I'm going to be able to get that. It's not going to hurt anything. It just doesn't look very pretty. Oh, and look at here. See, this should be bent up like this, so that it won't interfere. So I'm going to grab a cable tie, or a nylon zip tie as it were. It's not big enough. I'm going to use a big one. And let's fold that over so it won't interfere. Just like that. And then let's take this cable and route it with these others right up here. Yeah, that middle is ugly, isn't it, with all those connectors? There's not much more you can do. And if you go overkill on it, it might be really discouraging if you ever have to start changing, for example, the fans, and you've made these so difficult to get at, these connectors, that could make it very discouraging. But that's going to be okay. That'll fit. The cover's going to go on, no problem. Nothing we can do with these two. They're just going to have to stay routed off to the side. And then we have this big bundle right here. This is the last thing we really have to do. As you can see, that cable management didn't take very long at all. Stuff like this can be folded up again. I'm going to grab another big zip tie. And watch what I do here. I'm going to put this one on, and I'm going to take this one off now. Remember I said you're going to go through a few of them. And that's exactly why it happens. I want to make sure I've got all the slack pulled through here. See all this slack? Push all that through. We want this to be looking as clean as we can get it. No slack on these. This looks good. Could bend that down. It's okay. Doesn't really. You can put a cable tie on there if you want, a zip tie. I think I'm just going to leave it. I think it looks pretty good. We could even zip tie these pipes together, but I think they look pretty good just the way they are. Yes, it's cable control. Yeah, cable control. Every time I go to turn this, I keep hitting this and it wants to come off, which is really, really annoying. And every time I use this case, I always do that. I realize they made it easy so that you can get at it, but at the same time, if you're like me and you're used to using the front of the case as a handhold, it gets annoying real quick. The good news is once the computer's in position and when the customer has it, it's likely not going to get moved around like this like I'm doing here. But it's just something I don't deal with other cases, even from the same manufacturer. So when it comes to the SATA cable, we have a choice of either putting it up within all these cables here or keeping it on its own. There's some places that say you shouldn't bend these SATA cables at a 90-degree angle like this. I've never seen any performance hit as a result or any data corruption, so I continue to do it regardless of what they say. If it actually impacted anything noticeable, I would not do it. So once again, you take information on the internet and then compare it with real-life experience, and you'll find they often do not align. Real-life experience is very, very difficult to emulate on the internet. And people can convey information, but they cannot convey experience. It's something that each one of us must do on our own. We have not evolved to the point of being able to share our emotion or our mental processes. Maybe someday we'll get there, but for now, we're still a little barbaric in that we have to do things ourselves in order to fully understand them to a deeper level. I can't, for example, teach you how to ride a bicycle by making a YouTube video. You will have to get on the bicycle and you will have to fall down a few times to understand what it means to balance. I cannot explain to you the definition of the word hot to anybody. Nobody can. At some point, you're going to burn yourself, usually when you're a child. You will now have a profound understanding of what the word hot means for the rest of your life that you were never able to fully appreciate until that moment. It's terrible that we all have to suffer a little bit, but that's part of life. Life is never was intended to be paradise. It is kill or be killed in the wildlife of, animals. It's how they eat, it's how they survive. Every day is foraging for food and finding some shelter. It is struggle and survival every day. We've got it pretty good compared to the rest of the animal kingdom, but we still have those basic nature-instilled instincts to survive that as far as personal growth goes, as far as expanding as people, you have to exert the effort. If you are an animal in Africa and you are not exerting the effort, you will be killed. And so that's how the species stays strong and evolves. It's a pretty, I think, realistic way of looking at things. A lot of people seem to think life is a pleasure paradise, and I think it never is. I think you have moments of pleasure and you have moments of pain, and you cannot have one without the other, or you wouldn't appreciate it. You can't have good without evil. You can't have dark without light. You can't have one side of a coin without having the other side of a coin. Every front has a back. And so as much as you gain, as far as information goes, raw information from the internet, it can be very difficult to distill what's accurate to what's false. And then there's another level of what applies to you and what doesn't apply to you. And ultimately, the one thing that can solve all of that is when you actually do something. Whatever it is, once you do it, you'll have a profound understanding of the process, far richer and far more impactful and far more comprehensive and comprehensible than anything you will ever see or witness. So, food for thought. What I do on my channel, what my goal is to teach you how to think for yourself, not to just repeat what you see me do. I explain what I'm doing so that you understand why I'm doing it, so that when you encounter a similar yet different situation, you're not dumbfounded, that you can use your brain and go, well, Kerry did it this way, and the reason he said he did it this way was for this reason, and if I follow that same reasoning, then I need to do it this different way to accomplish that same end goal. That's what I'm trying to do here. That's my goal. It isn't to make little robots, it's to empower you. And it's a great feeling of accomplishment, and it's a great feeling of fulfillment. Human beings need that to be happy. People that sit around and do nothing are some of the most depressed and miserable people. The people that, and it doesn't mean you have to get out there and bust your butt either, but the people that exert an effort to accomplish a goal are the happiest people you'll ever meet. So pick which one you want to be. Let's see what we can do about this cable here. Can we wrap it like this? Let's try it and see. That looks pretty good. Now that's much better. This cable can just get tied up just like that. It's behind the hard drive tray, so nobody's gonna see it. So remember, there's sort of a combination of making it look pretty, but also making it easier to work on and diagnose. If you need to replace anything, point of having a fully modular PSU is if your power supply should die, you can just pull the cables right here on the back of the power supply and leave all your cable management in place, and then get another power supply that uses the same cables, whether it's the same make and model of power supply or you're sending it back for RMA and you do without for a week until the new one comes in. And then you just plug your cables back in. You don't have to redo any cable management there. One advantage of a fully modular power supply. If it's semi-modular, that means that your motherboard power cables will have to be You know, they're part of the power supply and come with the power supply, and in which case you'd have to undo that cable management. That's the advantage and the difference between fully modular and semi-modular. And of course, if it's not modular at all, you can expect to pull all your power cables when your power supply dies. And in this case, it would mean all these cables would be okay, but this cable would go, and this bundle would have to be undone, and then this would have to be undone. So think about that when you're doing your cable management. What looks good, remember, nobody's going to see this side of the case, but you've got to make the cables flush enough that you're going to be able to put your side panel back on. Just all things to consider behind your logic in deciding how you cable control your system. So I got this little bit of slack on, what do we got? 1, 2, 3, 4 more cables that are just a little too slacky. So how do we want to handle these? I can fold this one up. Let's say we fold that one up there. Whew, that's ugly. I've got a SATA cable here that, where's this going and why is it in this bundle? That's the one. This one's just giving me grief. This is the SATA cable going up to the optical drive. This will be now the 3rd or 4th time I'm having to figure out this routing. I like to keep the data cables away from any power cables just for any bleed over of interference. So ideally, when you're doing your cable management, you might want to think about running your data cables away from your power cables. It should not be in this bundle at all. So I'm going to cut that zip tie off. I'm going to grab another one and try something different. Let's try this. Let's take this out. Let's run this up like this, and let's fold this over now, since I'm going to have to waste a wire tie anyway. There's not much there. Let's just pull this over here for now. Let's do it like that. I don't like that fold over either. Don't like that at all. This needs to go. Rats. I'm gonna have to go at it from this direction. Which one is it? Is it this one? Nope. Is it this one? Nope. Is it this one? Nope. I'm running out. Which one is it? It's not that one. Is it this one? Nope. Okay, there's only one left. Is it this one? Nope, it's not that one either. Is it this one? Yay, I found it. I think that's where I want it, I think. Oh. Do I want it running through that hole? I don't. I really don't. I don't want it running. I don't want some of my power cables here and some of them here. I want all of them going through here, which is going to crowd this area up, but it's going to make it look cleaner overall. So I'm going to disconnect this and push it out through here. We want to run it in here instead. And then this one, I want to do the same thing. I think this is powering our graphics card, if I'm not mistaken. Let's pull that through. We're going to run that in. We're going to run it with all the power cables together. That's going to give you a much cleaner look overall. There we go. See what an improvement that's made. We can take this fan, it doesn't make a big difference, but we can run it through this grommet just to give it a little bit of a cleaner look. And if we really want to make it look real sharp, we can throw a zip tie on there and just put all the front port umbilicals and that one fan power cable together. Put another one on there. Looks like my USB came unplugged here, or I unplugged it and forgot to plug it back in, one or the other. It's gonna go right there. There we go. Remember, all this started because I'm still dealing with that SATA data cable for the optical drive. Here it is. Like I said, I like to keep this away from the power cables where possible. I might just need to sort of fold it up right here. I need to make sure I'm going to have enough length before I zip tie it to reach where I need it to go. Oh, it's perfect. It's perfect. So I'm going to pull it back out and zip tie it. Now it's easier to get to it than when I have it plugged in. Okay, let's try it again. Bingo. Nice. Really looks good in there, doesn't it? I think it looks good. Is there a minimum distance that it should be away from the power? I would say just don't run it alongside the power. You can run it over the power, cross over the power, but try and keep it away from the power as best you can. This USB 3 cable is really thick. Sometimes you just got to take them one at a time, which is what I'm going to do right here. These power cables that have the SATA connector sticking out. This can interfere with closing your case. That's pretty good. Just gonna grab a big old handful of cable here. I don't know if I got them all or not, but I'm gonna grab what I've got and take a look at it. Kind of sticking out a bit. Not much I'm going to be able to do about that cable. It's just gonna have to sit up there. This one's gonna get pulled out. I wish I had something to pull that down. Should have another loop that I can use to strap this against the back of the motherboard tray. There's a loop here. There's a loop down here. We can use this loop here. They put it on backwards. Maybe we can put all those together. See how those loops really help. They push those cables right up against the back of that motherboard tray. Helps a lot in the cleanup, which I don't have anywhere on the right side. My right. Well, I guess it'd be your right too, because my back is to you. All right. We've got a cable loop that's being used right now from the manufacturer for the front umbilicals. We're going to take the manufacturer's zip tie out. We're going to use a big zip tie here on the only remaining loop we have. The cable just barely fits around there, but watch what happens when you start cinching it up. Watch how much more the cable gets pushed up against the side. You'll see they're going on two separate directions. We're torquing this cable down from both sides. That's pretty good. We still have a bit of a of a thickness here that could interfere with putting our back panel on. I think that's about as good as that cable management's going to get. Unfortunately, this case is not the best for cable management. Let's see if the panel will go on it. Lay it flat. Oof, that's not good. That is not good at all. We've got two really thick cables here. One's the USB 3 cable, and one's the main motherboard power cable. And those may have to be separately I'm not even going to try. It's going to bend that. So we undo what we did, and we try it a different way. And this is the process of cable management. The more time you spend, the better it's going to look. Usually you don't make it worse. You just keep improving and improving and improving. So here's what I need to do. You see how this cable crosses on top of this one? It's part of my problem. I need to separately cable tie this little group, I think right here. So let's do that first. And then we'll take these cables right here. We'll bring them together. Ideally, you want to align them rather than stack them on top of each other, because that's where you run into the thickness issue, which interferes with your back cover install. Now I'm not even using the tie down at all, because it seems to be fitting flush without it. And the location of it is not convenient for us. Let's see if that's any better. It looks better to me. It's better, but it's not good enough yet. Where I'm hitting is this area right here. It's the bulk of these USB 3 cables that's giving me the grief. So it's still not enough room yet. Unless, wait a minute, maybe I can. Maybe I can just kind of bend them over to the side. It's right here at the bottom that's giving me the grief. Let me take another look at it. Let's try doing it this way. Well, I don't know if it can go any lower. I don't know. I think that's all it's going to be able to do. Let's see what happens. Boy, this cable management in this case is just terrible. Where are we hitting? Maybe just too many cables in this one little area right here. Let's just kind of spread them out a little bit. Give each cable its own space against the back of the tray. Okay. I think we're going to be okay. It's still a little bit resistant as long as it doesn't bow. Let's see. It's tight. It's very tight. That didn't go in. Negative, red leader. Didn't go in. It's a miss. Getting it off. That may be a whole nother problem. It's going to need a little coercion. Careful not to scratch the case up. Probably gonna have to push down on it at the same time to get it to come off. Well, if it's that tight, imagine if I'd have forced it on the other way. just not quite there. It's all part of the process. And you should, when you research your case, you know, this is less likely to be a problem if you're building a basic computer. The more things you add to the computer, things like liquid cooling, things that add more cables, you know, DVD drives, card readers, you've got to accommodate, or you've got to consider accommodating that additional cables that a system that didn't have those items wouldn't have, and would make the cable management much less involved. Come on, you can come off of there. I think it's time for a Coke. Yeah, I think I'm gonna set it down here for a minute so I can get some different leverage on it, because it ain't coming off that way. I'm gonna set it up right here on the floor. Let's see if I can coerce it. Come on. There it is. Just really had to push down on it. Put my weight on it. Okay, so why that's happening isn't because a cable got trapped or anything like that. You know, we're going into these holes here and these holes here. There's no cables anywhere in there. And of course, we're grabbing onto this lip and there's no cables anywhere near there. What's happening is we're just a bit thick right in this area. You know, this SATA connector sticking out is always a bad thing. We really want those as flat as we can get them. I think we're okay here. I think we're okay there. And we're okay here. So our issue still remains right in this little area right here that involves all of these USB 3 cables. And I intentionally routed these front port umbilicals through the middle in an attempt to hide them, but now in retrospect that may be not such a great idea if I'm going to have to separate these out, which it looks like is going to be the next step. And it does make for a less attractive cable management, but if you have a case like this, you don't have a whole lot of choice. What I mean by that is I'm going to have to take this cable, for example, and move it just over here and get it away from this bundle and create a separate bundle beside it, all by itself. See how thick it is? I don't normally struggle this much. It's a combination of the hardware that was selected on this build. It's just see how those all cross over now? So what I'm going to have to do to remedy that is pull this cable, reroute it here back to this side, and then I can feed it back in again, and then plug it into the motherboard. can use, I probably shouldn't. Having the cable twisted like this makes the cable management more difficult. Ideally, you will untwist this cable as much as possible. This may be what I'm going to get right here. So if we separate this one onto its own, that's a nice little bundle all by itself. Then we can take these cables that remain, and we'll run a little wire tie on those. We don't need a big wire tie there, just a fairly small one. That'll do the job. This little 4-inch wire tie ought to do good here. Okay, looks good. And then we want to route around this big fat motherboard power cable here. How about that? Still organized. Let's try again. Every time you hear me click that front door, every time I'm moving the case, you take a shot. Let's see. Look at this way. All right, you gonna cooperate with me this time? Are we okay? We good? We friends? We're getting along okay now? Still tight. Definitely not as bad as it was. Side looks good. Nope. Close. Nope. We're just right there. We're right on the edge. How about now? We're good and smooth here. We're good and smooth here. I think I might have missed one. I can't tell. I can't tell. It kind of looks, I think it's in. Still bowing a little bit. So what's got to happen to pull this panel off is you've got to put weight down on it and pull on it at the same time. You got to get those cables pushed back down. They give you that much room for a cable management, about a ½ inch. It's just not enough. Corsair really dropped the ball on this. I haven't struggled this hard with one. I can feel it right here, right in this area. Whatever is up here is giving us some grief. Let's take a look and see what that is. By the way, a different case, this all would have been done an hour ago. This is all on the case manufacturer. They've designed it to hold all this hardware, and then when you put the hardware in it, they don't give you any cable management for the hardware it was designed to hold. On a smaller case without the front ports, this would have been perfectly acceptable. But to give you room to add all these things and then not give you the cable management room for those things they give you room to add, it's really short-sighted on whoever engineered this case. Very short-sighted. And I think in the past, I haven't had any configurations that put this much hardware in such a this size case, which is why I haven't run into this problem before. Once again, PC part picker will tell you it's all compatible. They won't tell you about this part. They can't. They're not mind readers. There it is. So it appears to be the SATA connector that's giving us grief right here. Wonder if I can route that some other way. The problem is that SATA connector is sitting right on top of that fat motherboard power cable, and they need to be separated into their own. You gotta keep them separated. That's what's giving me my grief right there. It's my pump power. All I'm trying to do is straighten out the cables and give them their own lane instead of stacking them on top of each other. Make sure the cables, each cable is flush against the motherboard tray individually along a long line. Try again. So remember now, I'm not even moving any zip ties at this point. I'm just moving bundles of cables. Now there's something here on the bottom. It's another SATA power connector again. It's just so, the connector itself is what's giving us grief. Maybe I can just move it down underneath the hard drive. Keep it out of the cable management area altogether. I think we got it. I think we got it. I think it's good. It's tight. I don't know that there's much else we can do other than change the case. That was the easiest that it went on, and I will assume it's going to come off equally as easy. Let's go ahead and secure those, put the 2 thumb screws back in and secure that panel, and then let's fire it up and make sure that we haven't accidentally pulled any cables loose while we did that. That's very common. So this 450D case is an attractive case. It's well built, but there is no cable management allowance. And for that reason, I will never ever recommend this case for any customer ever again. Mark my words. If the customer wants it, I'll only do it if we're not doing optical drives, card readers, if we're just slapping a motherboard with an M.2 power supply, CPU, and runoff. I guess it doesn't matter if they have a video card or not, but ideally they won't, because that's another cable to manage if in a basic system. But then they could get away with a $200, a cheaper case. They wouldn't need to spend the extra money for this one. This is just a very foolish case. I really like Corsair cases, but boy, they just dropped the ball on this. They dropped it big time. See what happened? You see this cable? I was trying to hide that cable right there. And now you're going to see it. I don't have a choice. You can see that back panel. You can see this cable. This cable won't even fit between the back panel and the motherboard tray. It won't go back there. That's how little consideration Corsair gives you. That's how little respect Corsair gives you other hardware manufacturers and you, the builder. As far as I'm concerned, it's a selfish, thoughtless design from Corsair that considers only the aesthetics of the case. And when the minute you start putting hardware in it, that's your problem as far as Corsair is concerned. That's a really bad attitude, really bad attitude. They're capable, and they have other cases that are much more respectful of the hardware you're going to put in there and accommodate your cables accordingly so that you don't have to struggle like I just did. That's all on the case. Remember that. So when you pick your case, that's, you start with deciding what size case. You want something portable, you want something with a window, you want something that has a lot of expansion bays, and then you start looking at cable management, especially if you're going to utilize all the expansion bays, or many of them, or if you're going to be using front ports. I failed to do that. I made the assumption that I built with this case before and cable management wasn't an issue, but now that I think about it, I think I've complained about it in the past. So I think this is the last time you're going to see a 450D on my channel. I'll still use other Corsair cases, just not this one. Remember, the problem with the Kraken cooler was also related to the case. So all the frustrations that I've had in this build, as far as I can recall, everything is associated to the case. That's how important picking that part is. Okay, let's make sure it still works. Let's go to camera 4 or input 4. Put me up there. Let's give her a go, see what she does. USBs are tucked in there nice and good. Power cable's in good. Everything's flush into the back of the power supply. Pump is running. Video card's lit up. Front case fans are running. Ooh, that was quick. Oh, okay, just took us right back where we were. Good, everything looks good. Did I format and make his mechanical drive available? Is it there? Let's see. He's got Office 2013 Pro, which we put on there. It's funny, I thought it was Office 2016. I think I have to look at that. Oh, okay, so I didn't format the mechanical drive. Let's do that now. You guys may not know how to do that. So we're just going to go in the control panel. I'm not used to this control panel. Is it under System, Storage? Manage storage spaces. No, it's not what I want. Where'd they move it? Give me the normal view. Go to administrative tools. It's probably a shortcut to this. We'll go to computer management. Disk management. I probably could have just typed disk management right into the search engine there. Disk 0. Yes, that's what we want. This is it right here. It's 4 terabyte. New simple volume. Next, next, next. Perform a quick format. We'll give it the name of, let's call it 4 TB. So the customer knows what it is. And click next, hit finish. Good. So this is the C drive. I don't want the optical to be D. I want that to be E. But E is now being used by the mechanical, so we're going to have to choose, oh, and the card reader. So we'll go to J just for a moment. And this became I. Let's change it. Change the drive letter. It should be D. Okay, so now the C drive is the main drive, the D drive is the storage drive, and the DVD should now become E, but I think E is being used by something in removable. Oh no, DVD is already E, according to this. Let's take a look. This PC. C, D, E. Perfect, perfect, and the computer will remember that. I often like to just right-click on properties and turn indexing off. I don't know anybody who uses it. Make sure we've turned it off here as well. When you turn it off, it's going to give you an error about some files that are in use. So I just hit ignore all, and it's just going to scan through all those files and untag them for indexing. It just gives us a little more performance, unless you're somebody who does a lot of searching of files on your drive, in which case you'd want to leave it on. There we go. And while it's doing that, let me grab the other panel. A little dusty, I'm gonna have to clean that off. Just use a damp washcloth, that's all it takes. I'm gonna leave this plastic on here and let the customer take that off when he gets the system. You'll see I put the magnetic cover back on the top last night. Covers the top of the radiator up. And let's just get all this dust picked up off of here. Just the joy of living in the desert. It just takes 24 hours and it gets dusty. See, the front fans are running there, perfectly silent. Like I say, I think this is the quietest system I have ever built. You can't even tell this thing is on. It is dead silent. The reason that customer has those files for Microsoft Office is because I can buy the same versions of Office that the big OEM manufacturers like Dell and HP buy, which are severely discounted because they don't include any media and they don't include any support. But as a result, it's about half the price. I think Office runs, around Office Pro is around $160, I think, versus $300 for a retail box. It's about $100 off, something like that. But I'm a system builder, so I can get system builder licenses, which are completely legal, on the up and up, legitimate. They just don't include support, just like any other OEM manufacturer. You know, when you have a problem with Microsoft's OS on a Dell, they tell you to call Dell, don't call us, because they sold it to Dell cheaper, and Dell has to provide the support. And likewise, when a customer has a problem with the system I build, they would call me, they wouldn't call Microsoft. As a result, I can sell the software. I can buy the software cheaper from Microsoft, since Microsoft doesn't have to support it or pay for any retail packaging or distribution. And so that's how that works. Oh good, that wrapped up. Yes, guys, please don't use any cursing in the chat room. We do have children watching, and I want to make sure that if the parents are supervising their children, which I hope they are, that they know their children on a family-friendly channel. You can always choose another word. Swearing is unnecessary. And if I catch people, if you're a moderator, you're representing me. And if you're unable to control your ability to speak in a professional manner, that's no problem. We just remove you as moderator. And if you continue to graffiti the chat room like that, then you just be blocked from the chat room. We don't need that kind of language to converse and convey ideas. It's totally unnecessary. And it may require a little bit more effort on your part to think before you speak, but that is the way that we show consideration for each other here on this channel. Remember, we've got children watching, and we want to make sure that the children are in a safe place, and encourage them to come back and continue their education as well. Okay, so that's pretty much it right there. We're done. It can be boxed up and shipped out. You can see all the leftover wire tie pieces I've got here, all the pigtails I've cut off. It's all going to go in the trash. That's a little more than normal. I struggled with that quite a bit. And if the customer has to open that side panel up, they're going to struggle a little bit too. They're not as experienced as I am. It's just not going to slide closed like it would if those cables weren't there. But that's the cost of that particular hardware in this case, unfortunately. And that's on me because I'm the one who recommended this case. So that is not the customer's fault. That's my fault. It's going to be okay. Customers shouldn't need to open it up for a long, long time. And we'll cross that bridge if and when we ever get to it. Just for the sake of experimentation, I threw a fan back here just to see if, because that CPU, sometimes it hits that 81, 82 degrees. And I tried blowing air in, thinking, it's going to evacuate out the top anyway. And then I tried blowing air out. And just like I said, it didn't make any difference whatsoever. The video card, is generating some heat that's rising, but for the most part, the video card's pulling air in from the inside of the case and then blowing it out the back. But there's a little bit of radiant heat coming off of it when it works really hard. And I thought maybe it was making the pump warmer. But it's actually not affecting the pump at all. Even though the pump does feel physically warmer when that graphics card is working, it's not actually cooling the CPU any less. So there we are. Let me make sure my front USB ports still work okay. Just grab my mouse. We'll just try a random one right here and see if it works. Yeah, that's working. We'll try this top one, make sure that works. Yep, that works. Everything looks good. Looks good. Okay, guys. So at this point, let me bring you back. Full screen here. Okay, so at this point now, it's going to go back into the original box that the case shipped in. And the motherboard box has all the documentation, all the spare parts that weren't used. Everything goes into the motherboard box. That all gets taken together over to the FedEx store, and I have them take this box and lay it flat with the video card and the motherboard. Everything's down, so gravity is holding that video card in place. And we put it into a bigger box with some what they call RAM pack or paper material around the bottom and edges. Any spare components will be just thrown on top because they're not fragile. The motherboard box can go anywhere. And then we put this side up and fragile on the box with the address label on top, so there's no way the FedEx driver can read the box if it's upside down. If it were to be shipped upside down, that means the graphics card will be hanging upside down. We're only going to California, so even that'll probably be okay. Distance plays a big role in it, and this is going to go FedEx ground, which means it's going across the surface of the roads. It won't be flown or on a ship. That's where a lot of damage occurs, by the way. But the further the distance you're going, if it's going to drive in a truck from Arizona to, I don't know, let's say Maine, which is the complete opposite corner of the United States, you're going to hit every pothole and every bump. And so the further it's going to go across those roads, the more likely there is for damage. However, in packing it the way that I just described, it even should arrive there just fine. unless they don't follow the this side up stickers and they flip it upside down and it travels upside down for 2,000 miles, then who knows what's going to happen. So there's only so much you can do. But I've had really good luck with that. I haven't had any real issues, and this is just going about 500 miles to California, so we should be good. If you want to see what it looks like upon arrival, when I built the NZXT Phantom 4, I think it was a 440 case for Mike Smith, I asked him to film the arrival of the box and the unpacking of the box. And that title is How to Build and Ship a Computer. You can search for it here on YouTube and skip right to the end if you want. You'll see Mike Smith in Philadelphia, which is about 2,500 miles away, unboxing. It was recorded live. And it looked exactly the way I shipped it. There was no damage to the box. Everything, even inside the box, nothing shifted. So FedEx Ground has proven to be very reliable and also the most affordable means of shipping 40 to 50 pound computers at an average cost of about $150 when you include insurance. Insurance isn't going to pay if the thing arrives damaged, by the way. It's a big misconception. Insurance pays if the package is lost or the package was obviously mishandled, meaning significant damage to the outside of the box. That's when insurance will pay. If the box arrives without any significant damage, they will not honor the insurance. So in most cases, the insurance is a waste of money, but if you don't get it and somebody in the chain of delivery decides to keep that for themselves, you'll get no reimbursement. So it's incentive for the delivery company to make sure your package gets where it's going, or they're going to have to pay you whatever the declared value was. If it were to come up missing, they have no way to know what was in there other than what you declared at shipping. So if you say it's a $3,000 computer and all you're shipping is a box of bricks and that package shows up missing, they have no way to prove that it wasn't a box of bricks, and they'll pay you the $3,000. They'll have to. That's manipulating the insurance. But the other way is also true, where you didn't pack it correctly. They delivered it. The box arrives with no damage, but the inside of the computer is totally destroyed. Too bad. That's your fault for failing to pack it right. They, as far as they're concerned, if there is, and I got to reemphasize this, if there's no damage to the box, they are not responsible for any insurance claim. So keep that in mind. Looks like Nick has provided the video link to the video I was just talking about. Carrie, please share the link to the new blue screwdriver. So you want a link to a product I don't like and I don't recommend, and you want to buy it anyway? Interesting. Okay, guys, I'm going to wrap it up, and I will see you all again at the latest. I'll be posting an update for when I'm going to go live on Monday. I'll let you guys know as soon as I have all the parts ready for the Threadripper. And you want to submit ideas for the name of the Threadripper, throw them in the comments below this video. And I'll give you like a little trailer or a little heads up to say this day and this time is when that broadcast is going to start, in the hopes that we'll get the biggest live audience I can get. I think one of the largest live audiences I had was with my niece Camille. I think we're up to 1,100 viewers live. I don't think we've got any higher than that. Usually we sit around 300 to 600. I sure would love to see a 4-digit number of live viewers on the Threadripper build, but it is what it is. But I'll do my best to make sure everybody has a heads up so they can plan accordingly. And thank you guys so much for all your support. Thanks for all the contributors donating and contributing to the channel, both live today and in the past. And of course, thank you to all of the moderators doing such a great job keeping everything civil in the chat room. And thank you all for watching. I'll see you all again very, very soon. Until then, bye for now.